everybody, it's Maxine coming from Unlocking the Fearless You. And as you can see today, I have got the amazing Leon Streets. And with Leon, I met Leon, what was it, last March?
Could be, yeah, something like that.
Yeah, something like that, yeah. And Leon does everything to do with coaching, marketing, digital stuff, you name it, he does it. So I thought today I'd do something just a little bit different and bring some business in with the marketing. So, hi Leon, how are you?
I'm super excited, and I can tell already we're gonna have fun just the way you've done the intro with some marketing and some business stuff.
It's all about having fun. At the end of the day, if I have fun, you have fun. If you have fun, they have fun.
Yep.
It's exactly what it's all about. So, guys, you're more than welcome, as normal, to ask any questions that you want to ask. Leon will ask. Well, I'm sure you'll be quite happy to answer any questions.
Absolutely.
There you go, guys. Great for the man himself.
I'll make sure I jump in and answer them.
Yeah, of course. So as you guys know, that I'm going to ask Leon some questions, and we're going to get some answers out of him with all his expertise. Questions that you've got, I will go for a couple, and then obviously I'll go back to it and come back to you. That's not a problem. So keep asking away, and I will get back to you. That's not a problem there. So we've got Serpa's in. She's come from Finland today. Hi, Serpa. Nice to see you, my lovely. I also see that we've got Avi. He's here already. He's not said hello yet, but he will come and say hello in a second.
Good.
So, guys, are you ready for this? Are you ready for Leon? So, Leon, tell us a little bit about you. Let's start from the beginning and see where it's all about.
So, for me, let's go back. Let's go back to my childhood, say around about, say, 10.
Okay.
Life is good. I'm mixed race, so I have dual kind of heritage. My father's parents are from Jamaica. My mother is from England. And so growing up, I was predominantly spent the majority of my time with my father's parents, that side of the family. So I was raised on reggae. And it was the kind of common thing. Absolutely. I noticed you rocking. We were talking about this in the green room while we were waiting for the interview. Going back to the 70s. So for me, I was raised up on things like Bob Marley, you know, that kind of stuff, reggae music, John Holt. And reggae music and the sound system movement was just a big thing in my family, especially my father, because he was into sound systems. And so being part of that it was a rich culture, and it gave me a lot of, you know, different things to experience other than, you know, what as I grew up would know of, you know, what was British and so on. The food. You see, to me, it was normal. That's how I was brought up, and so enjoying Caribbean food, that was the typical kind of, you know, food that I would have, the cuisine. And so it was really vibrant. And, you know, kind of fast forward a year from being 10, my father passed away when I was 11, and so it was a pivotal moment in my life. And my parents weren't together at the time; they separated when I was 8, and so going from my parents being separated, and at the time I was living with my grandparents, and my father lived like a couple of streets away with his girlfriend, but he passed away. And at the time he was my hero. And as a 11-year-old boy, it was at that moment that I realized, like, Leon, everything that you do, you need to depend on yourself if you want to make it happen. And you know, it was just one of those moments where I can remember being in the room that I had at my nan's house and just kind of crying to myself in the room, the fact that my father, this superhero, had gone. And so fast forward to, you know, 14, I got into DJing myself after, you know, being around music as a youngster, and friends were into it and so on. And yeah, so I started mixing, and it was drum and bass at the time.
And drum and bass.
Yeah, I'd fallen in love with it because I was kind of into rave stuff as, you know, 11-year-old, 12-year-old, hearing tapes here and there, and just the older kids and whatever. And then by the time it was 94, I was into drum and bass and jungle. And I was DJing. By the time I got to 15, I was on pirate radio, and this is 1995. And so it was, at this point, it was kind of like, I've made it locally in my city in Wolverhampton, because I'm broadcasting on the airwaves out to the city, and people were tuning in regularly, and I was going on there. So me and my mates were going on there. And if you know anything about pirate radio, it's basically where it's the radio station doesn't have a legal license, and the studio can literally be anywhere, someone's kitchen, someone's spare room, some random places, and it was just an experience as a 15-year-old, as you can imagine, like an adventure. And so moving on from that, by the time I was 17, you know, I got a lot better as a DJ, become quite popular locally. I was DJing at parties, at clubs, and I needed a way for the bigger promoters outside of Wolverhampton, Birmingham, London, and so on to see me, as well as record labels. And so what I did in 97, when I was 17, I'd set up my first website. So it was djmystify.com. Doesn't exist anymore now, but I'd set it up, and then I put mixes on there. So MP3s I'd uploaded. And I was always this kind of person who would just figure stuff out pretty quickly. And so I figured out how to put the website together, how to upload the MP3s, all that kind of jazz. And I was producing music as well. So it was not only DJing, it was producing, put the websites together, sent this stuff out to record labels and promoters. And they were like, who created your website? And so that was the kind of start. And on the side, I was creating websites here and there, DJing, clubs. I was doing my A-levels. I was just at that point, I remember saying to myself, I used to feel proud of like doing all these 1,000,001 things at the same time. Well, as you progress in life, you realize that's not the best thing. But anyway, it worked at the time. And so moving forward, went to uni, got a degree, and I was still DJing on radio and clubs. But what I realized is that the website stuff could really help me to make money, and people were paying me good money. And so that was pretty much where I then started to really dive into, this is about 2004, 24. Let me, you know, take a shot at this and start doing websites. And then I landed two big clients. One was the University of Wolverhampton with a small contract. And then I landed the West Midlands Higher Education Association, and they were both great clients to have. And so for me, it was just kind of, you know, just pushing the needle and testing. And then I ended up doing a website for the Wolverhampton Labour Party. I don't support pretty much any party, but I just landed the deal at the time, and I was just happy, you know, just to get that caliber of clients. And then over time, people started asking me, saying, Leon, how do we get more clients? And that was where I really started to push from, you know, websites into understanding websites and marketing. So
okay, stop there.
How does that sound so far?
Stop there. Because you're literally going through all my questions before you even start.
I know. We'll come back to them all. So don't worry about that. And
what I was doing, I was trying to be really cheeky and do something really quickly underneath the desk.
Okay.
And it was like, I kept spelling it wrong. And I'm like, what I was trying to do, right? I was just trying to be really cheeky because I thought it'd be absolutely funny. Hang on, let's see if we can get it up. Oh, no, hang on. We don't want that on there. Oh, it'll play after the ad. Hang on a minute.
That's all right. You got to put it on mute before you play it.
I know. I didn't do too well, did I?
What have you got?
Oh, is this in the? Oh, it's not even in the jungle. Oh well, this was just rubbish, wasn't it? But how rubbish was that?
I love it. I love it. The fact that you tried to do this live and get it on live and it didn't work.
You know what?
That's awesome. Because you know what, that's part of the fun. So anyway, we're at 24, and I'd done quite a few things because I've been involved in setting up an internet radio station back when I was 21. And so I was able just to create things and get things working, fix things. And I just started to apply myself. And then in 2004, I'd set up my first business. And then by the time I got to 2009, 10, it failed. I had to liquidate the company. And it was a challenge, but I'm going to come back to that. In between that, I'd had my first child at 27, Ruben, got married the year before. And things changed because now it was, rather than what I learned at 11, Leon, you know, look out for yourself. It was, I had a family and I needed to understand, you know, other people were dependent on me and for me to be there for them. And I always knew that would be the case when I had children. And so I took that responsibility on. It just meant I needed to change the way that I, you know, use my spare time, i.e. DJing. And then at 27, I stopped DJing just because I couldn't be in clubs and stuff, you know, now. And I'd stopped producing music, which that was a separate thing, but I stopped that. And then I just really focused on being in business and, you know, taking care of the family. And so that was one of the things. And then, as I said, as time went by the time I got to about 2010, that business failed. And that was such a huge lesson in emotions, having to make your employees redundant. And at the time, it was just such a hard thing to go through. you know, even having to borrow money off my mother and my wife at the time to pay my employees, because I didn't have the money, because we'd got such a big cash gap, and a couple of clients went out of business owing us money. It was just like, stuck. And I look back at it with I would say fond memories, even though it might sound a bit weird, because I learned so much out of that experience in what business was about, what life was about, and what risks I'd taken in order to try and make it work. But ultimately it didn't work, but I learned so much from it. I learned about myself and, you know, what I needed to fix next time around. And that's kind of when I set up the new business called Young Cow Limited. And then Young Cow, it was almost like I was paying homage to my father, because when my father was alive, he had the nickname of Cow. And that was because he was a big guy. He used to do like weight training, kung fu. He was a very active guy. And because of all the training and stuff, he used to eat a lot of food, and his friends nicknamed him Cow. And so when I was born, his friends would call me Young Cow. And so when I set the business up, I gave the business that name, and it was dear to me. You know, there was some meaning, and the business was really much focused on internet marketing. And so I took the skills that I'd learned previously and then started to apply it to small businesses. And I started to understand, obviously, where I made mistakes in the past. But what I also did is put a limit on myself. It's almost like a glass ceiling. And what I realized is that the glass ceiling was the very thing that was holding me back. And I didn't see it for like 4 years. And it was like, ugh. But when
Let's
you
stop
look
at your
back,
glass ceiling.
yeah,
Right. Let's close that glass ceiling down and let's go back a bit.
yeah,
And then we'll go forward again after that, if that's all right.
cool. Yeah.
We've also got Adam, who's coming as well. Hi, Adam. It's nice to see you, my darling. Glad that you're here. And we've got a few others on here as well that have come in. Right. So when you talked about your lover of music and you was being DJing and stuff like that,
yeah.
What made you decide to go into computers? I mean, is it just something that you just absolutely loved, or was it something that you just thought you'll give it a try and see how it works? I mean, it's such a massive difference.
Yeah, because if you look at when I was 17, I set the website up, because at 17 I had my first computer, and I just got fascinated by creating stuff, music in particular, because I was producing music from the age of 16. And so in producing music, you got to use a computer. But then I got into creating like CD covers, you know, mixtape covers, that kind of stuff. Self-taught, figured it all out. Got into printing the stickers that went onto your CDs, creating flyers for events that I was putting on as well with other people. And so it was a natural progression from being creative, how to harness that creativity in creating music, creating designs and stuff like that, and websites, and then going into, well, what do I want to do? And it was kind of, I wasn't exactly sure. I knew I wanted to do stuff with websites, but I also had this inner feeling of business. And so I did computer studies. And when I took my degree at the University of Wolverhampton, I just remember focusing on understanding how to program, like the kind of make things work, but then taking business modules as well. And so I think marketing, because of the DJing and getting booked and always being creative about how I reached out to people and so on, I think that was always in me. And it's one of my superpowers now in terms of marketing, which we'll get onto later, about how I help people communicate their message, because I understood how to communicate my own.
Right. Okay. So yeah. in my head, you know, when I went to college, I did photography and computer design, and I wanted, when I left, to design CD covers for bands.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted to go into. And it's surprising how much your mind changes even halfway through a course.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it was like, first of all, I wanted to do fashion design, and I was like, I'll do that. And then it was like CD covers for bands, and then I wanted to go into forensics. So that's the reason why I was doing it all.
But I see. Like, okay.
Yeah. So it's sort of the same, like forensic photography and all that kind of thing. So it's like you have a lot of things in the air when you're younger.
Yeah.
And I suppose when you went from doing your websites, found something that you're really good at, you would have thought you would have gone into music production, but obviously gone into doing the covers. But you went completely computer and just not forgot the music, but sort of put it as a back thing. I take it as a hobby.
Yeah. I put it as a kind of back burner, because the music game, like, the one thing that I realized is that I didn't commit to it. I had records released on labels. I had stuff played on Radio 1 Extra, you know. So I had the support of big DJs, like, because it was drum and bass, and then when I got into production more in the later years, I was doing grime and garage. I had, you know, like top DJs who were playing my stuff, but because the music game wasn't paying me the way that website work was paying me, and I enjoyed doing the website work, I was like, you know what? Let me go with this because this is paying right now.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't too much of a kind of I'm not following my passion, because I really enjoyed creating websites, working with people, and it was just, you know, for me, it was like a natural evolution of I'd done DJing and producing for 11 years. And I was like, I'm good with that for now. Where I'm going next, I want something bigger. And that's where I saw this leading me ultimately.
Which is great. And when you went into like your websites and your digital marketing and you did campaigns for other people,
Yeah.
I mean, is that just like on Facebook, or was that just like everywhere? I mean, how would, say, from say me as a business owner, you know, if I was a startup and I said to you, I'd like you to do me an ad campaign,
Yeah.
what kind of things would you do?
Okay. So now you're jumping, Maxine, because
I
like
know. Well, I thought I'd do it you. You know, we can come back to you a bit after.
fine. Let's go forward, loop back, and keep people in that ever ending loop. Okay, so back then it was different, because when you were marketing back in the early days, you could market on forums, chat rooms, all these just obscure places that now most people will be like, huh, chat rooms? What the heck's that?
I remember them back in the day
Early
when it
days,
first
yeah,
started.
those were early days Facebook.
Yeah.
Facebook Messenger. And so, you know, people came to me, and then we were doing things on Google Ads, search engine optimization, just different things. But what I would do with you now is totally different. So I wouldn't say if you came to me now, how would I, you know, set you up on marketing? Because it's just different to how things are done then, just because of the changes in technology. But if you if you want me to tell you how things are done now, more than happy to do that.
Should we leave that bit to the end? Should we let them in suspense?
Yeah, we'll leave them in suspense. So
All
we
right,
got
okay.
another
We'll
loop.
do that. Okay, we'll go on to the next bit then. So we talked about Young Cow already and the reasons why it was called that, because we had a bit of a laugh before that, because it was like, well, why? But I really, you know, about your dad and stuff like that, and I can really understand that, because my dad passed away 13 years ago and I was 26 at the time.
Right.
So I understand what that feels like. But to actually have a dad pass away at the age of 11,
Yeah.
when you're just realizing, I mean, my mum went through cancer at the age of 10, and I nearly lost her. So I know how that feels to have a parent that, you know, you just feel lost.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, and it for everything that I felt out of it, it was such a great thing to go through. And obviously it's just my story. I'm not saying it's a great thing when somebody dies. I mean, to look back and understand the emotions, how I dealt with it over the years, you know, and whatever else, and looking back at it with more of just an open view of, you know, that was my story and that was who I was. It's not who I am now, but it helped to obviously mold me into who I am.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
I'm grateful for all the lessons. I don't have anything negative associated with it, and I learned massively from it. I mean, what makes it really interesting is my dad was 29 when he died. I mean, I'm 38 now, and I'm like, wow, like I still feel like there's so much more to even do, you know, at this age, never mind him passing away when he was 29. And it was such a just an interesting dynamic. And even now, you know, to look at it retrospectively and just like, wow, that's something that actually happened. But, you know, I set the business up. It was called Young Cow, and it was to pay, like I said, homage to my father. But Young Cow was really just about driving forward. But for the first 4 years, I realized, looking back, I was in a depression coming out of the other business that didn't work and having to make employees redundant. You know, I was in that place of like, yeah, nothing can stop me. We were doing pretty decent at the time. We were generating around about 15, 17 grand cash flow a month. And so it was okay. But I just hedged my bets in some of the wrong areas, and then a few things didn't quite work out, and that was that. So going into Young Cow, I thought, I'll play it safe and stay down here. And I limited myself, which I thought was clever thinking, to paying myself £500 a month and making that okay. And it was just like, oh, but that's what it was at the time. And so the business was actually doing okay, but I was like just being super cautious. But what it also allowed me to do was really focus on outsourcing, which I'd already, you know, been used to outsourcing in my business. And so at that point, I outsourced even more so that I didn't take employees on, so I wouldn't make them redundant if something happened.
Yeah.
But fortunately, I'd built up some good relationships with external freelancers and subcontractors, and it was just working really well for me. So therefore, my actual outgoings were even less. And it was just one of those things of learning. And then eventually I took on another employee, and then another, and then I was able to go and travel while the business was still running itself with my team. And it was working. Yeah. And so for me, it was just like, I'd got to this place where, yeah, I'm good with that now. But what I started to do was look at, well, what are the kind of clients I'm working with? Who's working for me as a client and who's not working for me? I started to really look at, well, what's going on here? And then I had this epiphany that actually the people who I'm serving, I can't serve anymore. They're not at the right level in terms of the size business. They're not at the right level in terms of their thinking, and they're not at the right level in terms of how much they're investing with me. And it was like another pivotal moment, but in business. And it was like, this isn't working. And so I need to change. And so it was at that point, like about 4 years ago, I thought I need to pivot out of the marketing agency and create a coaching business.
Okay.
Because the
You're
coaching
skipping
business,
again. You keep doing it. You keep skipping.
okay. So anyway, coaching business, we'll come back to that, guys.
There we go. Reverse.
Yeah, go for it, Maxine.
Okay, so let's have a look and see what we've got on this evening. So we've got Serpa from Finland, which we come and said hello before. Hi, Serpa. I'm so glad that you can come and join us this evening. We've got Adam. Adam comes into a lot of the shows and he's absolutely amazing. He puts lots of questions in. Guys, as we said before, any of you that have just come in, any of you that just joined, you can ask Leon any questions that you want. Anything to do with marketing, anything to do with your business when it comes down to marketing. He's quite happy. He's already agreed that he's quite happy to answer any of your questions. Yeah. Mr. Bradley Chapman is in the house. Awesome. He's in the house. And yeah, so he was talking about that death in the family is not easy. It's not. It's hard. But it's good. The fact is that you've learned from a lot of the things that have happened to you, and the fact, as you said, a lot of it is a learning experience, and what he's taught you as a young child, you've brought forward to you.
Yeah.
So absolutely. And you've learned a lot of things from it, and as you said, it's not always a negative reaction attached to it. It's the fact is that the things that you've brought with you is still there really at the end of the day. Matt said good evening, and nice to see you there, Matt. And Bradley is sharing away already. That's what I like to see, Mr. Bradley. Like to keep him on his toes. So let's talk about this. As a local charity that you help out. What do you do there?
Okay, so with the charity, it's local to the area that I grew up in, basically where my grandparents settled in the UK, because they came over from Jamaica in the 60s, like late 50s. It's from Jamaica, as I said, part of the movement to go and rebuild Britain after the war type of thing. As many black people were promised back then. And so All Saints is where they are, and it's an area in Wolverhampton, which is very close to the city centre. So ASAN was set up as the All Saints Action Network, and it was all about kind of encouraging reinvestment back into the area, giving opportunities to children, young adults, and then adults as well as old age adults. And so just to raise the morale, the opportunities of the area. And so it involved different things. There's a sports facility, there's the business hub, there's the community facility with a centre and a local church. And so it covered all of those things. And so, it was a pretty decent charity. I think it got up to around about, or probably just under 3 million in terms of.
Did you DJ for them, or did you do your marketing for them? What is it you did?
I did different things. I sat on the board, helped with, interviewing CEOs who needed to come in, help them with some of the aspects of what they needed to consider with marketing, and also what they needed to consider with the things that they were developing locally, relationships with stakeholders and various different things like that. So it was more about just giving my time just to help that organization, which helped the community. And the interesting thing is, I don't live in All Saints, so I moved out of All Saints by the time I was 25. But just a way for me to just give back, and I think at the time I had a few family members who still lived in All Saints. I probably have one now, actually two aunties, and so there's still that connection there. I mean, I don't really know many people in All Saints other than my two aunties, but there's still a few people, but it's not like I go there purposefully, but I just found that it was a way that I could give back, and it was just a chance meeting with at the time. The CEO had come to a business networking event where I was, and he said who he was, and he said, "Oh, I work at Asan." I said, "Oh, I know Asan, because you know it from where your kind of area is." And he was like, "Wow!" And I explained where I was from, and he was like, "Great, would you want to come and have a look around?" And like he got me.
Well, it's always good to give back, isn't it? I mean, of all the things that I know, you help other people and you get your business in, and you're very busy, and everyone's got 24 hours in a day. But when you can actually give back, it fulfills you in a completely different way than just a normal job. Yeah, absolutely brilliant.
So, different things like summer fun days and just many different things, and just chipping in, helping out. I love doing all those kind of things, and it's important to give back, and that's what it was for me.
Brilliant. Guys, just in case you're wondering, right, my kids are downstairs cooking and my eyes are streaming like anything, so I'm not crying at Leon, but stories like giving me the crying, it's not happening, it's fine. And I'm wearing a nice, I didn't have a Jamaican top, not at this late notice, so I was like, well, can't do Jamaican, can't do Bob Marley, so let's go into the 70s and we do 70s, so we got as good as 70s. So just in case you was wondering, this is not the normal attire. So what we do is we'll go forward now, back into, obviously we talk about your business side and the thing that you do now, which is your coaching and your marketing and everything else. So explain to people what you do.
So the company that I run now is called Business Owner Elevation. It's all about elevating business owners, and in particular coaches. 70% of the people that I help are coaches, so business coaches, life coaches, executive coaches, and 30% are small business owners. The common theme with all of them is people who are coachable and looking for expert advice. That's it. Because remember, I said in Young Cow, I just realized I couldn't serve those types of people anymore. I needed to go with people who really had the level of investment that they could make with me, the level of commitment to their goals and really growing and going for what they want in life. And I wanted to change that dynamic and work with more world-class business owners, because I thought, well, if I want to, make the kind of moves and difference that I do, it's like, why am I settling for either startups or people just, that I can tell they're not committed myself? And it's like, no, let's pivot, let's change. And so I focused on that. And I thought coaching was a good angle because, I'd had such extensive years in marketing at that point. And I thought, let's use this skill to help more people understand what needs to be in place for them to succeed when it comes to their marketing campaigns and coach them through it, And so I invested with a coach at the time myself, because you can't be a coach if you're not being coached yourself, because it's kind of, you need to understand what it's all about. You've got to buy your own stuff.
Yeah.
And so I spent £5,000, which I didn't have at the time, but I spent it. And I learned exactly what I needed to learn, which wasn't really the coaching aspect. It was how they knitted everything together to make it a business.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? Is you go through so much in your life when it comes down to business and life coaching or mentoring, anything like that. But it's the actually knitting together the foundations and knowing how to put it together and what to do to move forward with it.
Yeah, and because like I said, I've always been good at creating stuff and figuring stuff out. I already had the kind of main pieces, but I just needed to understand how it connected together. And so I did that. I was on this 8-week course with this coach for $5,000. And I saw some of the holes in what the person was doing, and I saw some of the great things. And I was like, right, I can do that. And so that's what I did. I took the information, what I paid for, took the coaching and launched. And about a month after I'd finished the program, I was ready. Just because at the time in the 8 weeks, I hadn't got everything finished, but I was okay with that because I knew what I needed to do. And so 4 weeks after 12 weeks, started to get my first client and put everything into play. And that was it. And it was like the journey had started. And then this is while I was still in Young Cow. And then what I thought was, let me launch this as a proper business, not whilst I'm in Young Cow. And so I launched Business Owner Elevation and took on 2 business partners as well, people who I'd worked with on side projects and other things. And I thought it'd be a great dynamic. And we all worked together for about a year, lasted a year. We got to the year review, and then we just realized that where I wanted to take the business was different to where they wanted to be in their lives, not with the business as such. And so they both left after the first year. But we'd had such a wild ride in that 12 months because there's 3 of us and the dynamic of us all pushing each other, coming at things from different angles. Like, we'd accelerated so much knowledge, so many kind of just marketing assets and strategies, tactics, and various things, that it was like, wow. We got to the end of 12 months and it was like, great, thank you very much. And I'm like, I'm still in this because this is a 5 to 10 year play for me. And then I went and doubled the business next year.
I bet they were like, really?
Yeah. And so it's been doing really well. And I continue to support, clients. I have a number of multi 7-figure clients. My biggest client does about $15 million. I have 40% of my clients who are in the USA. The rest are in the UK.
Right.
Got a couple in Australia and South Africa. I coach from afar, kind of like this. We do video calls and so on. And so, it's a real great dynamic from coaches to small business owners and helping people. Like, I've helped one client who he generated $1 million in 4 months. Small business who was one of my actual young cow clients, wanted to stay with me. It was like, can we stay with you, Leon? I said, yeah, sure. And we helped them generate over £1 million by running a £600 a month Facebook ads campaign for a year.
Right. Okay.
So
brilliant.
Just different things, but yeah, now you can dig in, Maxine.
Yeah, I'm going to dig in. I'm dying. I've got my shovel and everything. I'm going to get the JCB in a minute. So tell me, what the question we said before, which is, if you've got a new startup, I know I said you don't do as many startups now, but it's like, but when you've got a first startup that's actually trying to get into doing their marketing and trying to get into obviously expanding their business, what would you say the first 3 things to do in marketing?
Okay, the first thing is really focusing on who your ideal customer would be. So the ideal customer, as in the person who would pay you exactly what you want, not how cheap they would pay you, but exactly what you want, like the best paying client you could ever have. And really start to focus in what gender they are, if they're male, female, or both, what age they are within a 5-year age range. Like, literally know that they're either 35 to 40 or 40 to 45 or 45 to 55, whatever the age is, within 5 years, because you want to get to understand all of the attributes, the demographics of this audience, but you also want to get into the psychographics, the reasons why they will buy the product or service that you have. So that is your niche, and you've really got to get into things like, what are they fearful of around the reason why they would buy your product? Like, what is going on in their life, if it's coaching, if it's a service or whatever? What is it that it's going to help them do in their life, and what challenges in their life or business is it going to help them to get over? What are the common kind of perceptions in the marketplace? Like, what are the things that they're going to be, judgmental of or fearful of if they are going to buy your product or service? So you can answer those things ahead of time. But all of that is what's going to help you to define your niche. Most people say, I'm not going to go specific. I'm going to go open and wide so I can get all the customers I can. And then they end up with a business that isn't doing anything because they're too generalistic. And so that's the first step, and also the first mistake to avoid by not going specific. Go super specific. So the second thing is create a plan. Create a plan of action of where you want your business to be in 3 or 5 years' time, and then put what the revenue is, and then go to year 2. So you're going to go backwards, reverse engineer, put what the revenue is, and then year 1, end of year 1, what the revenue is, 6 months, 3 months, in the next month, and start to focus on what is it that you've got to do in order to get to that 3 or 5 year goal.
It's like doing your timeline, isn't it?
Do your timeline and you commit to it. You write it down. You don't have it here. You write it down. If I'd normally have my journal with me, but I haven't got it. Write it down. You could write it on here now. So you write it down, and you write down the key goals that you've got to achieve for that year and for the next 6 months, because what it will do is give you a short to mid-term focus to achieve the long-term goal, and you write it down at least every other day. So you take one page and write down your key goals. So for your short term, for every other day, you can write down 3 or 5 just key goals you've got to achieve that push you forward to the big goal. And then every month put down your main goals so that you see them and that you've still got that long-term focus, but every other day you've got that short-term focus. And because what you're doing is feeding that. It's almost like the difference between focusing on your goals or watching EastEnders. Which one's going to get you to your goal? Yeah, the more you focus on what you want, the more you'll create it. So, you know, goals for business, goal for your life, because the business should really be a vehicle to allow you to live the life that you desire. So that's point 2, planning, goals, and really focus on a big goal. Don't just, you know, make it small, but make it something that really stretches you, but you commit to it. And then 3, if you want to speed up the process, you find somebody who's done something similar to what you're trying to do and you learn from them. You get a coach or a mentor. It will save you time. The one thing we don't get back in life. And, you know, the one thing when people pass away, they can't come back. So get a coach because it will help you. In finding a coach, the best thing to do is look at people who have not only got testimonials, but they also have testimonials that show the results that they've achieved for their clients, because it'll show you that their methods actually work, not just for them, but for other people like you. So those would be my 3.
Brilliant. Sounds absolutely fabulous. So if you've got someone that's telling us, right, okay, so I found my ideal client.
Yep.
I found, you know, my goal where I want to be. I've got my 5-year plan. I've got my 12-month plan. I know what I need to do. So would you say digital marketing is it something like LinkedIn and Facebook, or would you now go on to Pinterest? What is the kind of thing, what kind of platforms are we looking at nowadays?
Okay, so based on who your niche are, you'll understand where do they hang out. So are they in Facebook groups? Are they on Facebook? Yeah. Or is it business to business? Like you're serving, you know, more B2B. So you probably need to look at LinkedIn. And what I would say is choose one platform and just go there consistently, dominate. Like you're streaming 3 times a week, right, Maxine?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's an example of choosing a platform and being consistent and turning up. Yeah. That's what you've got to do. So there are Facebook. Obviously you got Facebook where you just post and you don't pay for ads, but then there's Facebook where you're paying, you know, which is going to get you more reach for sure. LinkedIn, again, you can use LinkedIn organically, LinkedIn groups, and you can also use LinkedIn ads. I've done extremely well on LinkedIn. It's actually been my biggest earner for me as a marketing channel. And I actually get clients from it, which is, I get them from Facebook as well, but I get them more so from LinkedIn. Like this week, I've got one client who's come on board. That will be a £50,000 client off a referral from a partner who I built up a relationship with on LinkedIn. And so you've just got to choose the right places. So for instance, you've got Instagram, obviously, you know, you can test that, but with Instagram, you've just got to be prepared for either you or your team, no matter what channel, to have the time to invest on those channels. And here's the reality. If you're a startup and you really want to make your business a success, you've got to be doing marketing for 2 hours a day. So when I say marketing, that means spreading your message. If you really want to kick it up to 6 figures and go beyond that, what most people do is get busy with a few clients and saying, I'm going to deliver the best service ever, and forget about marketing. Yeah. Okay. The more you market, the more your message gets out there, the more opportunities you have to sell, and the more that you have made in terms of cash in your business, the more that you can grow the business by either bringing team members in to, you know, do more so you can do less, or just to grow and just move forward with whatever your goal is. But that would be my advice. Choose the channel where your audience hang out. Pinterest is good for women. I think it's got something like a 70 to 80% gender preference for women. But again, go onto YouTube if you want to figure out how to use any social media channel. Everything is on YouTube. If your budget isn't great, you'll find it. You just have to sift through for a few hours and days to find the good stuff, and then eventually something will work.
Fantastic. See, some good information there, everyone. It's very much to do with all your marketing today. We've got Leanne. You're not called Leanne.
Yeah, no, not Leon. I've been called Leonie.
Well, now you've been called Leanne. So we've got Leon Streets today, and he's talking about marketing. He's talking about the things that he's gone through when it comes down to his businesses, and where he went from music production right through to doing website design, and now he does coaching and marketing. So absolutely amazing for what you've gone through, and the experiences that you've brought with you as you go along. It's like, you know, I know the feeling is I've gone from one job to another, but each one has been completely different. And what you do is you learn from each one of them. And I've noticed that the business that I've gone into, it's very much that I've taken every single little bit from each one of them and consolidated it into my business. And if I would have actually just done the 1 or 2 jobs, I would have found it so much harder to work in business than what I do now. And I wouldn't have learned as many lessons. So I personally think, you know, going from a few different jobs is not a bad thing. And, you know, with your, go on.
I would agree.
Go on.
No, I just said I would agree. I would agree. I don't need to say any more, Maxine.
All right, fair enough. So it's I just think it's brilliant that you've gone from one thing to the other, but obviously you did it for the money side of it because it was better in money side. But have you ever thought about attaching the two together, perhaps coach people in music production?
You know what? Like, I get it, because I still listen out for music, and I sometimes hum beats in my head and whatever else. And no, because I didn't do it for the money. Like, what I really found at the time was I enjoyed creating websites and I enjoyed the marketing at the time, you know, when I made that transition, but I was making money. So I was making money from producing and DJing, but actually with the website stuff, I was making even more. There you go.
Funny sound one for you.
Yeah, a bit of drum and bass. And so for me it was that, but like getting into the music side of things, I couldn't do it now. It wouldn't make sense because I've not been entrenched into it like I was back then. I was deep into music production, like you know, I couldn't go back to it now because of the time commitment. And the reason why I stopped producing, and the only reason why I stopped, is in 2007 when Ruben came along, my son, who's now 11. I'd backed some stuff up onto a portable drive because one of my other hard drives had failed. And unfortunately, so did that one, but it had everything on that I'd built up over the past kind of 11 years, sound library, settings, tracks that I hadn't even released. And like, I don't know, probably about 30 tracks, if I'm honest. I don't remember. And I was pissed off. And sorry. And
sorry, guys.
I was very annoyed. Sorry.
That's the
word. Passionately annoyed. And so at the time I said, you know what? Let me just sell all the stuff because I can't be bothered with this, because I knew the time that I'd put into it. And so for me to get into some kind of music production coaching just wouldn't work right now, because I know what my gift is throughout the whole of that time. I understand I'm a very creative person who can create the solutions to problems. That's what producing was for me. The DJing part was just my enjoyment of music. I enjoy music now. I listen to it daily. I actually work with music on where some people would find it annoying. You know, and just different aspects of that. But my gift above all else, and what I learned in being able to reach out to record labels and promoters, is how to communicate a message. And so that is my true gift. And that's the one thing that I share with people. I share with my clients. And, you know, I do Facebook Lives as well every week in our private group. I do them in our public group. I have a podcast as well. And so for me, it's sharing the gift now of teaching people how to communicate their message effectively so they can grow their business.
Fantastic. And that's the thing, communication is the key. And it's like the reasons why we do broadcasting, because, you know, we want people to join the broadcasting. We want people to join our life coaching and our business coaching. And, you know, when it comes down to us, you know, helping them to, you know, publish their books, really, and everything else that we've got going on. But by broadcasting, it gets the word out there, and not just doing it in the UK, but globally, because, you know, the world isn't as big as what it used to be because of the internet.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's absolutely brilliant. And I suppose the thing is, when it comes down to your music production, it was a stepping stone that you become the person you are today. And it was like, actually, you found your niche of what you really enjoyed.
Absolutely. And You know, I do enjoy it. And when can I talk about my book, Maxine?
I'm just about to do it. I'm just about to do it.
Okay, sorry, because I heard you mention book. I'm like, come on, let's go.
I was literally just doing the bits. Honestly. So that goes into nicely talking about your book.
Awesome. Here we go, guys. Look at that. #1 Amazon international bestseller. So we achieved that in the UK, USA, Canada, and Australia. Basically,
And how quick was that when you
yeah, 24 hours.
Woo woo! 24
yeah.
hours.
Yeah, and get this, guys. Look, I practice what I preach. I hired somebody who is an expert at helping you to market your book properly. Yeah, and so that, you know, I believe in it. You gotta hire the people who can help you get there. If it's a mentor or coach, and look, I took everything, all of my marketing knowledge, and simply poured it into this book. More leads, more clients. It's called the 10-Step Marketing Manifesto to becoming one of the most valued and highly paid coaches in your industry. And I wrote the book, believe it or not. So it launched on the 1st of November 2018. So what are we now? 22 days ago. I wrote the book. Yeah, I wrote the book last year between September and December.
Mm-hmm.
I did 58,000 words, and then I had to wait for my editor. A specific woman I wanted to help me, Christy Rutherford. I'm going to mention her. She's an amazing lady. Published 8 books and 6 were bestsellers. And so by the time she became available, which was about 6 months, we then finished it together and brought it down to 47,000 words.
Right.
And, you know, I'm really happy because it helps any type of business owner, even though it's focused on coaches. The stuff in here will help any business because I focus on principles. And I also had every chapter with a custom illustration because I'm a very visual type of thinker.
Yeah.
And so the chapters have these illustrations to represent what I'm talking about. And I go through, you know, things like understanding your marketing strategy. And I'll just give you an idea of what the chapters are, so you get a feel.
I was about to say to you, give us a tip.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like how to create a winning marketing strategy is chapter 1. Then how to position yourself as an authority is chapter 2. Chapter 3 is why direct marketing is critical. A lot of people don't know the difference between marketing, just normal, and direct response marketing, and the difference. And I'll talk. Yeah.
Let us in on the secret.
So direct response marketing is when you get somebody to take an action, respond to whatever you've put out there. So you want to get into the mode of when you market yourself as a business owner, people respond and take action. So whether it's to fill in your contact form, buy a product, give them an action, because your marketing shouldn't be something where you're not asking, because that's the whole point. You're running a business. Chapter 4 is how to create your products and services. So actually how to put them together.
Yeah.
Chapter 5 is how to create a business that works without you, which talks about systemizing your business so you can get more time back to do other things and not just be in the business. Chapter 6 is how to get, Chapter 6 is how to get more leads. So this is where you start to look at, is it Facebook? Is it email marketing? Is it referrals? So I go into all of that. Chapter 7 is how to convert more prospects into clients. So what you can actually use to convert people into clients. And then chapter 8 is how to sell more products and services. So what you need to do in sales calls in order to get more clients. Chapter 9 is how to take your business to the next level with team. And then the final one, chapter 10, is called your secret weapon. And the secret weapon, I go into the mindset of what it takes to actually be a successful business owner, because a lot of, you know, people will talk about, oh, you need to do this trick and that trick. And actually the only trick you need to fix and solve is here. Because if your mind's not right, your business isn't going anywhere. And so that's why I kind of left it to the last part, because I wanted people to lock in the kind of principles of marketing, but end with actually, you've got to be the one to make it happen. And there's 9 key things I can share with you on mindset if you want me to do so. It's up to you. If we got the time, I'm happy to do so. If not, people can go get the book.
Well, we've already over time already.
I know. What do you want to do, Maxine? Should we leave it?
We'll leave it for this time.
All right. So go to moreleadsmoreclientsbook.com, get a copy. And if you do buy a copy, I'll make sure you get the audio book for free as well.
Do I get a signed copy?
Of course you do. Go on there. Go get a signed copy.
I'll make sure I'll show it next time I'm here. I got a signed copy.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So that's what the book is about. And, you know, it's taking this, pouring it into stuff that more people can benefit from.
Brilliant. So
Awesome.
there you go, guys. I mean, that book there, like More Leads, More Clients, it tells you so much information of everything you go from literally from start to finish of what you need to know. At the end of the day, you are only your own glass ceiling. Unless you've got this right, you're never going to get anywhere. Because at the end of the day, if you don't have the right mindset, as Leon was saying, it's very much that you're not going to be able to go any further than what you already are. You know, and as you already said, it's all like in your business, you've changed so many different times. I've changed so many times. And the people that succeed in business, they do change. But even if you're failing and you're failing, you know, you've got to look at the reasons why you're failing. You've got to look at your mindset of, is it in the right place? Is your family life in the right place? Is your business life in the right place? What do you need to change? Get it down on paper. Write down what you need to change and how you need to change it, and take action on that change. Because once you do that and you get everything right, that glass ceiling just falls away, and sky's the limit at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Good advice, Maxine.
Oh, I do try. So guys, as you can see down the bottom here, I'm putting in that if you'd like to be a broadcaster on the Yes You Can Inspired to Achieve Global TV, as you know, we're already in all different countries. We've already got Finland was in today, the UK, Canada, America. We're in New Zealand, we're in Poland, Africa, France, Spain, you name it, we're there. Cyprus, we've even had Jordan. Yeah, so people from all over the world come and see us at Global TV. So if anything you'd like to do, become a broadcaster. You know, it's another part of marketing. Don't you agree, Leon?
I do. That's why I'm here.
Exactly. And then you could meet people like Leon and you could get a signed book. Not Leon's one though, because obviously they need to run out of books.
Yeah, exactly. I've ordered another 100, so you're good, Maxine.
Oh, that's all right then. So if it is something you want to do, guys, you're more than welcome to give us a message. Myself, Bradley Chapman, I'm going to be heading up the broadcasting, so if anybody needs any training and Bradley's training, then we are going to be here for you. It is only £97 per month. With that one, you can broadcast up to 4 times a week and 20 minutes at a time. And with that as well is you get training, you get that as well. You can also go into our WhatsApp group, which we all help you out with that as well. So there is so much to it that it's like a big massive list. So I'm not going to go through that today because we ain't got time. But if you want to know more, then just give us a message, because at the end of the day, it's all about getting you out there. It's all about you enjoying yourself. It's about you learning by while you're doing it. And not only that, every single person that comes on, I learn something new too. Good. So I get free coaching.
There you go. Excellent, Maxine. Take advantage.
So I want to say thank you very much for coming in, Leon.
You're welcome. It was my pleasure.
Amazing. I'm not actually going to try putting any more on here, because I've done one and I failed. And I've done the second one and it was just like a little bit, because I'm like trying to do this under the table. I felt really rude. I was like,
it's all right. I appreciated the effort.
Oh, that's all right. I'm glad you liked the effort. Yeah. Well, guys, I want to say thank you very much. If you've literally caught the end of it, do #replay, have a look. We'd like to have some fun on here. As you know, we try and get different people in. I'm now doing a celebrity corner on a Sunday. I'm doing Content Tuesday on a Tuesday, and then on Thursday it's Special Guest Thursday. And I'm not even going to tell you what's going on next week, because it's going to be a surprise. So you just means you'll have to tune in. So I want to say thank you very much, guys, for everything, and I'll speak to you all soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.